We're starting the week off on a little bit of a full moon hangover for some. We had our full moon last Thursday, and Mercury retrograde began right after that. So, especially for the signs Leo, Aquarius, Scorpio, and Taurus, we are doing a little recovering. It wouldn't be surprising if we're feeling a little tired, feeling a little exhaustion from some of those wackadoodle angles that were happening last week and even in the weeks prior. So this week, what we'll be talking about is a little more of a coasting period, a little more of an acclimating period. It's when we can really sort of adjust to the temperatures of this upcoming Mercury or of this ongoing Mercury retrograde, rather, that will be continuing until February 20th. So we'll notice that the daily events, the things that normally take one or two steps, we'll notice those things slow down a little bit. To where things might take a little bit of extra effort or requiring a few extra steps here and there. Or for some, we might be feeling like we're taking kind of a weird trip down memory lane where we've got some experiences or situations that might be oddly similar to things that we've experienced in the past, but with a new sort of refreshed twist. So we'll be looking this week about how we can dig into this adjustment period that we're in and not really force the forward motion, but allow these adjustments and changes and realignments to take place and really have our eyes open where the universe is showing us these areas in our own individual lives, where we're seeing resistance or where we're seeing these kind of weird shifts or adjustments happening. Let's find the silver lining in that stuff because Mercury retrograde is not just about a disruption, it's more about an adjustment or an edit. So where are we making an edit in our life? Where are we sort of getting back on track? In a sense, because we have been dealing with wave after wave after wave of this Uranian upheaval energy. We've been talking about it week after week here. And Uranus is still active, but thankfully this week, Uranus will be interacting with Venus as she joins the Great Conjunction in Aquarius by the end of the week. So the feminine energies are getting the upgrade this week, where our relationships, our interactions with other people, can really start to feel this reinvention of this Aquarian connectivity. Okay, so it's not that nothing's happening and it's not that we're just coasting through. It's more about turning our dial to ways to allow and ways to magnetize the right adjustments to take place. And many times when Venus aligns with Uranus, this planet of change or unexpected energy, we can get surprise connections, surprise friendships or relationships that help us to bridge into this next chapter of our life that could come out of nowhere, seemingly. So keep our eyes open for that this week, and we'll just be aware that since it's Mercury retrograde, we'll want to leave these plans or adjustments we're making with any of these new relationship connections or edits that we're making in our life. We'll leave these open for a malleable adjustment later on if we need to. And that's kind of one of the tricks about working with the Mercury retrograde is that if we allow for changes later on, it can generally work out very beneficial for everybody involved. It's when we lock into a solid thing or make a huge purchase, or a really important long-standing agreement that we don't want to change, that we get into those frustrating Merc-Rat kind of situations because then later on, Mercury's moving forward, we reassess and we tweak what we decided on or, add to it or whatever, which can actually be a really good thing. So Mercury retrograde does have kind of a bad rap because, the hurdles we get, the one step process that takes 5 steps, which can be frustrating. And the signs that feel this the most are, of course, Gemini and Virgo, ruled by Mercury, which Virgo kind of likes Mercury retrograde. They just get out like a different color highlighter for it. But Gemini and this time Aquarius, Mercury retrograde is in Aquarius, feeling these energies the most, as well as Leo, Scorpio, and Taurus. So we can make this positive. We can have fun making these changes, because I know that many of us, from all of the waves of energy that have happened, have kind of gotten off track in some certain areas. We've been thrown for a loop here and there. And so Mercury retrograde is a perfect time to go back to things we've left on the back burner or the back seat, or however you want to look at that. Bring things back to the forefront that we kind of lost track of before, and get back on track. And as far as our relationships go, Venus is going to be helping us this week, again, bridge into some of this reinvention and long-term thinking. We're like, okay, we want something sustainable. Let's stop playing around with the in the shallow end of the pool. Let's get serious. Let's get real. So it seems like a fun adjustment period, especially for the air signs, Aquarius, Libra, and Gemini. Yes, you feel it the most, but that doesn't mean it has to be a bad thing, right? So Mercury is retrograde in Aquarius all the way until February 20th. So we can expect these adjustments to continue until that time. And then this week, Venus enters Aquarius here and joins Saturn by the end of the week, and then Jupiter next week, early in the week, right around the new moon, actually. And we'll talk about that in the next update. But if you notice, there's not a lot of big headlines this week, which might be kind of a good thing for some. We are starting the week on an active note, though, but I didn't put it as an actual headline. Sun square Mars here early on Monday. This is giving us some activity. This kind of turn of the wheel after the full moon. So many of us have had full moon events that precipitated into this week where Sun square Mars is an action moment. It's like, okay, we've got to do something. We have to get something done. Let's have the meeting. Let's make a judgment call. Let's get a move on, kind of thing. And some of these things, since Mars is right with Uranus still in Taurus, can be very quick. So I don't want it to sound like I'm downplaying the energies this week, because Uranus and Mars are still hanging out together. This very quick, very sudden movements of energy. And again, that's going to be at a maximum here Sunday into Monday. And then if you notice on the days here where the aspects normally are, there's no exact aspects until we get to Saturday. Okay. So that this kind of represents our adjustment phase and our acclimation phase into this Mercury retrograde. It's not necessarily a full-on break, but what we're doing is sort of like getting our feet wet a little bit. And it seems like a coast to me, like a coasting, instead of being like, like putting the gas on, like Uranus, Mars, like who's driving this thing? Like, it's more about like, okay, let's like foot off the gas, just kind of cruise control, that kind of energy this week. We've got Venus entering Aquarius here on Monday, which should feel pretty nice because the moon's in Libra at the same time. So those air signs, Libra, Aquarius, and Gemini, feeling in harmony here Monday and Tuesday for the most part, because Venus enters Aquarius. She gets out of those sort of very boundary setting, business oriented vibes of Capricorn and into this very community minded, interconnected energy of Aquarius. And there she can be all about these new fun ideas. So let's just be careful with those and the balances with this Mercury retrograde, because there could be a little temptation to be like, oh yeah, let's do it. Let's do this crazy thing and like, we'll do it now, and that's all good and everything. But again, just kind of going back to that aspect of that we can change it later on, or it's adjustable. It's a flexible sort of plan kind of thing. On Wednesday, we do have an activation here of Venus. She's going to square Uranus. The moon in Scorpio is going to be what activates that especially for the signs Scorpio, Taurus, Aquarius, and Leo. We're going to have this Uranian social bridge, sudden movement of friendships or connections that can happen that moves us into some new energy. Now, one thing that can happen with Venus square Uranus is if you're in a relationship that has been, on the side of either unhealthy or repeated things coming up, Venus square Uranus is a tense angle technically, though Venus rarely does anything like tense per se. But what this can do is it can dramatically change our relationships suddenly. So there can be sudden flare-ups or sudden movements. So just the same as we can connect with people suddenly, we can also disconnect with people suddenly too. When Venus squares Uranus, it can be these sudden changes to relationships. So we can use that energy to its advantage and guide it toward upgrading. If our relationships make us feel like Saturnian, like a little constricted or a little trapped or a little bit like cold, that's Saturn talking, and Uranus wants to break apart that Saturnian limitation. So any relationships that are feeling like limiting or constrictive, or it's like we don't have a lot of elbow room, Uranus is going to come in and be like, we need you to expand out, girl, and give yourself some room to breathe. So some of the signs, especially Scorpio, Taurus, Leo, Aquarius, might be feeling some of that side of it. But in general, she's also going to be conjuncting Saturn, not till this weekend exactly, but this Scorpio moon is going to activate all this stuff on Wednesday, Thursday. So Saturn and Venus together equal boundaries for relationships, healthy boundaries. It's like boundaries can be a white picket fence, right? It can be just like, I'm in my lane, you're in your lane. Like let's have a good time and let's work it out. Saturn is work and commitments and responsibilities. And we really need Saturn involved though to have anything long term. So this isn't a bad thing either. It's just about knowing about what a healthy boundary looks like and feels like, and also knowing what you want for a long-term, sustainable kind of connection. Honoring the parts of yourself that you value in relationships and not giving as much energy to those things that make you feel like smaller or constricted, but guiding the energy more toward a work long-term kind of that Aquarian reinvention thing where we can team up, we can re-team up because it's Mercury retrograde. So who's a friend you haven't talked to in a while? Who's a business partner that you're curious about what they're doing now, since all these global events have happened? Who's somebody you could reach out to or focus on making a business connection with that could be long lasting. Saturn is this planet of long term energy. So we don't need to always think about Saturn as the limiter or, the boundaries, because it is the planet of time. And we need time to do things, So Saturn and Venus together as a team this weekend are really asking us to make these commitments and to, use our time to do Venus things, beautiful things, creative things, make our connections, do things together, that kind of stuff. So our last quarter moon happens on Thursday. That's when we're officially in that very last fourth of the moon phase where we're getting ready to kind of like let go, release it. We're integrating everything we've learned so far in this last month and preparing for a renewal, which will occur next week on the 11th. And we'll talk about that new moon in the next update. That new moon's really cute, honestly, because where Venus conjuncts Saturn here on Saturday, she's going to be conjunct Jupiter, the planet of joy and expansion, next week at the new moon. So if any of you are feeling these kind of serious vibes related to your comforts and your values in life, feeling like maybe not enough of something, we can expect that to shift maybe a little bit going into next week. As Venus and Jupiter start to interact. If you want to help support these videos, you can send tips to my Venmo or Cash App. Thank you so much for those who have sent tips in the last few videos. I really, really appreciate that. And then if you want to subscribe monthly on Patreon, you'll get some rewards there. You can do all of that from my website, astrologywithcumulus.com, and the link for that is in the description. Thank you so much, star signs. I love you. I'll see you next week.